the Alien franchise has managed to stay relevant in pop culture all the way from its first entry back in 1979, probably becoming one of, if not the most iconic films when it comes to space sci-fi horror. So of course, when Hulu announced the upcoming series set in the same universe with a ship crashing on Earth and bringing the xenomorph to us, I was extremely hyped. Was the series worth the wait? We will see. Before we begin though, please give us a like, share and subscribe to the channel. Alright, suit up, grab your gear, it's time to see what the wreck of the Maginot brought with it. This series does an incredible job capturing the aesthetic of the original Alien films. That much is clear right from the opening scenes of the crew on the ship meeting around the dinner table and a group of space truckers and scientists chowing down before the big cryo sleep, discussing their cargo and bonus situations. However, this is then broken up by weird flashes of chaos, indicating something went wrong, while also just showing us the crew going about their daily routines. It's a weird choice for sure. It kind of makes it feel a bit rushed, like they need to dump as much exposition as they can to get to the big crash. I wish they had spent a little bit more time with the crew, and then maybe as the rescue workers who show up to the crash site get what happened through surveillance footage and whatnot. The pace of the show is also kind of off-putting. Not only does it stretch out seemingly unimportant scenes, any horror moments just breeze past, leaving little to no tension. The characters are awkward to say the least, which I'll go into a little bit more in depth in the spoiler section, but they just don't feel real, or like they have any stakes, like it really doesn't matter if they die or anything like that. On the other hand, the show does explore the lore of the Alien universe, much more than the films did, taking things from the books and the comics and integrating them fully into a functional Earth that's pretty much run by a handful of major corporations. We get a little bit of that in Alien Romulus, but here we see it from the inside, mainly through the eyes of the employees from Weyland-Yutani. Just like Battle Angela Elita, the elite live in skyscrapers high above overlooking the lands, while the rest dwell in dirty, cluttered cities and crammed apartments. As Ron Perlman put in Alien Resurrection, Earth, what a shithole. My other nitpick is the strange music choices. You'll go from a cinematic score to tools suddenly blaring over the credits, and throughout the episodes there are these big obvious ad breaks, which actually take you out of the show more often than not. And don't even get me started about the whole Peter Pan thing. While I think if utilised in a much more delicate way, it could have been really effective. But unfortunately it feels so forced and ham-fisted that it just becomes kind of silly. Alright everyone, spoilers! Spoilers are inbound for the episode 1 and 2. I'll give you time to cut to the timestamp on screen if you want to avoid these. Okay, so here we go. If you've seen any of the previous films, you know there are synthetics that otherwise look completely human, but they're often implanted into crews to ensure company policy is followed. This series introduced a new kind of synthetic, one with an actual human mind transferred into it. Basically, Prodigy uses children who are fatally sick and offers them a chance to live forever. The reason they use children are because their minds haven't fully developed and thus they are easier to shape and adjust to their new bodies, where often adults will reject the procedure. So enter Marcy, aka Wendy, because all of the children get named after the Lost Boys from Peter Pan. Wendy becomes the first to undergo the new venture, followed by 6 others. After she's put into a new adult body, she still has the mind of a 12-year-old girl, and so she, like the others, act like children, or what adults think children act like anyway, which makes it really uncanny and kind of cringy. After a while though, the Maginot crashes into one of the cities that Prodigy owns. Because in this world, corporations own entire chunks of land, a search and rescue team is sent in. Most of these characters have random nicknames and I just can't remember them, even though I just watched the show, all except of course Hermit, who is the medic and also just happens to be the older brother of Wendy. However, as you've probably seen from the trailers, the ship was carrying a bunch of otherworldly biological life forms, and we know what that includes, the xenomorph. But that's not the only danger on board, unfortunately. The only surviving crew member is a synthetic, who works for Weyland-Yutani and is tasked to retrieve the specimens at all cost. So suffice it to say, when some of the rescue team cross his path, he removes them from the equation. Speaking of life forms though, there are some creative ones here that we get to meet. One is this strange elongated tick type of thing that drains blood from whatever creature it can bite into, until it fills the sac to the brim and then just tries to crawl off and die. We're not really sure yet what it does, as the scene we got was very short. Next is a tentacle eyeball thing which pops an eye out of something and burrows its way into your ocular cavity and takes over your brain, kind of like a puppet or a parasite. For those of you who are animal lovers, especially cats, you may want to look away during that scene. Then we have the plant pupper, which we haven't seen what's inside just yet, but it definitely has me curious. We also get a glimpse of some kind of spider-like creature trapped inside a containment unit, but the glass is just too foggy and cracked to see it in full. And finally, last but not least, we get Zeno Daddy himself. But he looks awful. I mean, it looks super rubbery. I don't really know how else to put it, but it definitely does not look as good as the films made him look. Could just be because of this being a series and having only so much budget per episode, but I don't know. I think they could have done a much better job. Well, not too long after the search and rescue crew run into trouble, Wendy finds out her brother is here, and has Cavalier send her in with the rest of the Lost Boys to do what they can to help, given that they can't really die and have super strength and all that. This is what I meant before by the characters not having any real stakes, because if they get ripped up or anything, they can just be re-downloaded into a new body, like respawning in a video game. A key factor here though is that her brother Hermit doesn't know she's alive. He was told she died because the experiment procedure was done all in secret. Not because it was illegal or anything, but because of the property ownership rights. And Cavalier, the boy genius trillionaire who runs Prodigy, wants to be the sole ownership of this tech. Anyway, after almost losing his life to the big space bug, Hermit is eventually reunited with Wendy, who spills the beans and she's actually his sister. And then they find a room full of eggs and the xenomorph snatches him up. And that's the end of episode 2. So all in all, I'm a little disappointed in the show so far. I want to like it more than I do because I absolutely love the franchise, but the editing, the pacing, the awkward characters and the odd dialogue all just breaks the illusion of this world. And I think a big reason the show isn't as great as it could be is because they are trying to stretch it out into a weekly mystery type of deal, instead of just delivering us a straightforward sci-fi horror adventure. Now that's not to say I don't welcome a good mystery plot, but in the case of the Alien franchise, we already know the answers. We already know what the xenomorph is and what it can do, and why the company wants it and so on and so forth. It's only the characters in the show who are in the dark on this. So just like a murder crime thriller where you already know who did it, you were just waiting for the characters to figure it out, and that can be a real slog to get through. Especially since they are releasing the episodes weekly, instead of just dropping the whole season at once. But, all that being said, it's only the first 2 episodes. And who knows, the show could go somewhere I never expected and do something truly amazing. So I'm definitely going to stick with it. And don't worry, for you fans, we'll be here each time to bring you our thoughts and break down anything significant. I want to thank you all for checking out the video. What do you think of the series so far? Does it live up to the hype? Please let us know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon to stay up to date with all our latest releases. I have been your host Sarah, and I hope you have the most beautiful day, and see you next time. Take care.